This was like a study in media metaphysics, talking here about President Obama's press conference and the way most of the headlines and the chatter and the buzz and the online clicks went to his answer about Bill Cosby. Now look at it from the White House point of view. The president has just announced a hugely historic but very controversial nuclear deal with Iran, and he calls a press conference for the very purpose of selling that deal. It goes on for an hour and 10 minutes, which consisted of 7 questions, and the president was so anxious to rebut every argument made against the nuclear negotiations and the deal that now could potentially be vetoed by Congress, that he started asking himself questions because he didn't get all the questions he wanted. He took some talking points out of his jacket. But then toward the end, April Ryan of American Urban Radio Networks asked him a multi-part question. Part of it had to do with criminal justice and part of it had to do with Cosby. And the president started out by saying, I'm not going to comment. And then, of course, he did comment. And then he said he didn't think he had the authority. There was no mechanism, he said, to revoke the Presidential Medal of Freedom that Bill Cosby got from George W. Bush in 2002, which, by the way, you know, you're the president of the United States, you have nuclear weapons, you can send in troops, you could write a letter saying this is hereby rescinded. He obviously didn't want to do that. But then, in a moment that you could just, there was so much tension in that room, the president clearly wanted to assail the sexual misconduct of which Cosby has been accused, of which he, in my view, has essentially acknowledged in a deposition. And he talked about, you know, that if you give a woman or a person a drug and have sex with that person without their consent, that is rape. So why has that made so many more headlines than whatever he had to say on Iran, which arguably is more important to the world community than the scolding of a 78-year-old comedian? And the answer is not just that the Cosby story was a big story, and a lot of people have strong feelings about it, and 30 or 40 women have come out and accused Bill Cosby of sexual assault, and you have this sort of unusual specter of the first African-American president scolding and lecturing a guy who was a groundbreaker as an African-American comedian and performer. But it's easy to understand. It's gossipy on one level, but it's dead serious on another, because we are here talking about allegations of rape and sexual assault. It's easy to understand. Everybody has an opinion about it. Iran, you have to get into the breakout period, the number of centrifuges, where we are in 10 years. What about the 4 American hostages who are still being held in Iran? The 24-day notice on inspections. It's a complicated story. And in a way, it's almost ironic. The president went on and on and on about Iran, didn't really produce a headline except for his rather personal reaction to an aggressive but fair question, in my view, by CBS's Major Garrett about the 4 Americans still being held in Iran. And yet the question that he probably would have liked to avoid, and he probably didn't want to step on his own message, was about Cosby. And yet here we are, almost everyone in the media talking about Obama and Cos. It just goes to show you that's the off-topic question, and I give April Ryan credit here, the question that's unexpected, the question that prompts maybe a true show of emotion from a president who is tightly scripted on everything else. That is the thing that sometimes makes the big headlines.